to the righteous and the repentant alike. I am Chief Sophia of the Americana Band of Indians. I'm not going to waste any time. This rant is over an hour later than I thought I was going to make it because I ended up ranting to someone else. But I thought it was necessary to at least start the conversation and bring into people's awareness, into their mind, that of course uh, the Hebrews and the Christians are native to this country. Like, I didn't realize that this could potentially be controversial, because how is it that if the events of the Bible took place in America, how could Christianity or Hebrews not be native to America? I don't understand where some of these young people are doing their research, but it seems as if they have totally drank the Kool-Aid that the Melchizedeks are putting out, because I was having a conversation, as I mentioned, about this with somebody in my house. And as soon as the Melchizedeks come up, there's a lot of calamity. The phone rings, everything is going crazy. This seems insane to me. So I was going to rant and rave about the of course, Christians, they for some reason still think that they have some kind of control over us. See, here's the problem that they don't have a solution to. They don't know how to do magic. Like, they don't have the ability, the capacity to do personal magic. The only thing they can do is new moons and full moons and rituals that are from thousands of years ago. They have no capacity of developing new rituals, and therefore they have no capacity to do magic, because all of those old rituals, we close the door on those. Like, as if this thing with a professional victims unit doesn't make that clear, we close the door on that. There's no more magic like available to be done, and this is why you see all of Americans' rituals completely failing. Now, I have to be very careful how I talk, because I'm supposed to let these entities jump in and take care of business. But I'm not sure that they knew that this whole thing with these people was still for some reason going on. So let's talk about the Melchizedek priesthood. Let's talk about how they're the ones who's leading the propaganda wars within the black community. I was on a live stream with some young people who I don't know a lot about these young people. But they were talking about slavery. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm familiar with this based on my own family story, the research we've done on this channel, the extensive lengths that I've gone to prove that we are from this land. If the Hebrews are from this land, of course the Christians are from this land. There's no other way. Hebrew, you don't even have Christianity without Hebrews. So this is what I was saying. If you guys remember, yes, I'm a Hebrew, but I'm not only a Hebrew. After I finished being a Hebrew, then I started to be a Christian, and that's well documented within my family. So some people don't have this ability, capacity within their family. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about him. We'll get to that in a minute. Some people don't have that capacity within their thinking to understand that you're a multidimensional being. You had multiple incarnations. Your bloodline is very far back into this country. So were you a slave? Probably, but then you were also a prisoner of war. You were probably Christian, then you were probably Hebrew, and you were probably Hindu before that. You're probably a lot of different things. There's lots of indigenous religions and stuff like that that all congregated on this land, and there's no way that that's not possible. So what about Trump? How about this? How odd is it that a federal holiday, which is called Juneteenth, was literally ritually discarded by the White House, the president, everybody? And it's very unusual that you have a war, a whole friggin' war that was started right at what some would think is a galactic portal day from the Zolkin calendar. if they were too brain dead to know how to do the math. Not my fault, not my problem. So you have this professional victims unit number two starting this war with another one of our cousins, the Ishmaelites, probably an idea. And in the midst of this, instead of taking this as an opportunity to celebrate the very of American culture, they literally all ignored Juneteenth. Now, what is that about? Why would you do that? Why would you ignore if there's no blacks, if there's no black history, there's no American history. Black history is American history. So why ignore the black part of the history, but on 4th of July, y'all sure will be celebrating the American part of the history. Shalom, peace and blessings. Welcome to my rant. I just don't understand what is wrong with these people. It's very, very, very important to discuss all of America's history, not just the American history that started in 1776. But even if you want to talk about that, let's talk about all of these founding fathers who were in the Masons, who the Masons were founded on the feast day in the Orthodox calendar, that was the feast day of John the Baptist. Why would they begin their organization on the day that John the Baptist was born? Because they were supposed to be the forerunners. They literally considered themselves the forerunners of Christ. Well, if they're the forerunners of Christ, what Christ? What Christ would be coming after these people that they were the forerunners of? See, this is what nobody want to talk about. They were not portraying to be the forerunners of Jesus who already died. They were talking about being the forerunners of the blacks who would rediscover their history and come into the knowledge of self so that they could be the ones who were the gatekeepers. John the Baptist wasn't a gatekeeper unless you read the King James Version, which, whatever, it has some good stuff in there, but it also has a lot of stuff that's messed up. There's no way that you can read that and think that he was a gatekeeper. He baptized a bunch of people. He wasn't a gatekeeper, but for some reason, there's a group of people that believe that he was a gatekeeper. Now, the forest fire thing is also tied into this because which forest fire are we talking about? Right now, there's a forest fire in Russia that's raging. And as I have mentioned, Russia is Japheth, the land of Japheth. And so, why is that land being destroyed? Well, we know that those people have bits and pieces of our history. What I want our people to understand is that bits and pieces of our history have been kept all across the planet. They're in everything, the bits and pieces of our history. If you understand that that's how things were going and that's how the history was kept, then you can understand Black history in America. Another point that I had made to these people is how can you not acknowledge spirituality when you're doing your research? If you don't understand the spiritual practices of the people you're researching, you'll never understand their behavior. Their behavior is directly tied into their spiritual practices. You absolutely must consider that when you're looking into these stories. And most people are just not doing the research. They are woefully incorrect in how they do everything, how they calculate everything. And the reason why this is important is because if you don't know for sure who your God is and what entity has been acting on your behalf, you are going to be fooled. There's no getting around it. That's what the Melchizedeks do. They're the ones that facilitate people being fooled by these different entities with their propaganda. What does the propaganda look like? I saw somebody online say today, everybody, all the spiritualists sound the same. I said that's because they all worship the same God. Now that God is Zeus, i.e., Epiphus, E P IPPHAS, which is one of the demons that Solomon used to hold up the cornerstone of the temple. So yeah, that's one of the entities that they work with, aka Jehovah, aka anything that's outside of you, um, that's supposed to be like guiding you to do something. That's not how that works. You can't check that energy. You can't verify that they are who they say they are. You can't see their story in anything. If you're working with a God and you can't see their story somewhere in the Bible, you're not working with a God. You're working with a demon. 100%. And a lot of spiritual people think and believe that they're working with demons, I mean, with angels or gods or whoever, but they're not. The gods LARP in the energy of the angels. That's the only way they have access to this realm. And the Melchizedeks know that. So what they do is they prop up all these fake spiritualists so that you think, oh, this person's a trustworthy person. Meanwhile, they are demon possessed, really, and lying about it and won't do anything about it. But just happened in my house, I've never seen anything like this. As soon as the Melchizedek's name came up, I was getting ready to drop the hammer on them. Just for one person, doesn't matter. I was getting ready to drop the hammer on them. The cup mysteriously collapsed, spilled all over the floor, created a whole ruckus. The phone started ringing, people are rushing around, and the whole vibe shift. That's propaganda from the Melchizedeks. This is what they do. They create these scenarios where instead of you being able to finish a serious conversation that has this is why I'm on this live, because I was going to say I won't even talk about this, but this is in you have to stay focused. You cannot let these type of things hurt you from where you are trying to go. These individuals, these gatekeepers who have entities listening, they're listening through the TVs. If you get too far off the plantation, they literally suck you back in. I talked about this in my Emancipation Day video. You should go and listen to it because it's true. These entities are LARPing in the energy of you. And I've said that, excuse me. I've said that for a long time. But now I have the proof. I can prove it. And people, they don't know what proof is. Proof is not somebody co-signed it in a book. I don't do proof that has to be co-signed. My proof is look back at your life and ask yourself this question. Dot, dot, dot. How could I know that? By looking through some piece of paper like a mad person and telling you X, Z must have happened to you. That's in your astrology, that's in your chart. But now it's in your Jubilee cycle. So I can see how they have been trying to get us back onto this Jubilee cycle, but it's so complicated because not only is everything in a bunch of different places, the people who are holders of knowledge also deliberately put out information that's incorrect so that we can never get back to the knowledge. And that's why I'm back on here talking about the Melchizedeks. That is coordinated with them. They are the ones who never want our people to be at peace. Jubilee is about peace. Because guess what? If Hebrews aren't from this land and Christians aren't from this land, you don't have authorization to be in Jubilee. That's why it's important. I was trying to say this on the live, but I can't put it into a short clip. You have to have some context. I can't just ramble that off and expect that anyone knows what I'm talking about. I've been doing this for 3 years. Nobody ever knows what I'm talking about. So I have to put some context to it. If you were not a Christian, if your bloodline was not a Christian, right? It's not that you don't have access to the Jubilee cycle, you have to be grafted in. That means that you don't have permission or authorization to calculate your own feast days. You have to rely on an organization or a church to calculate your feast days. But if you are the people from the book, the Christians from the book, the Hebrews from the book, because the book is from this land, written in English, translated into Hebrew and into Greek, and then retranslated back into English, because that's what happened, like American English, not British English, then you don't have the right to calculate your feast days. You don't have the right to calculate your jubilees. You don't have any rights. You are subject to the authorities. And who are the authorities? The Melchizedek priesthood, who control all of the things and tell everybody when they can celebrate their holidays, when they can serve their gods, when they can have their idols, what idols they can have, and how they're supposed to worship them. That's what the Melchizedek priesthood is. That's what they do. And so, by standing here in my own power and saying, no, I'm native to this land, my people are native to this land, we were Christians, we were Hebrews, we were all kinds of religions that were all over the planet. They all come from us. That means I can calculate any feast day. I can calculate my own jubilees. And I can calculate jubilees for those who cleave to me. And not in a way that's weird like the Melchizedeks, because they're weird. Everything they do is weird, but in a way that is literal. I can literally run your chart, tell you what entities are attached to you, tell you how to get entities that don't match this energy out of your energy. I could do that. I have the authority to do that. It's in the realm of my power because I was here when all this was being set up. My bloodline traces back that far. But if you just showed up here, Ellis Island, hey, I don't have nothing to say about that. You have to either go back to your home and back to your foreign gods, or you have to cleave to the God of this land. Because the thing that nobody wants to talk about, especially the Melchizedeks, is that there is a God of this land. And it's not the same, it's not Jehovah, it's not Zeus, it's not Epipus, it's not none of these demons. They're not the God of this land. We have a creator that's the God of this land. And that's who you, if you want to stay on this land, you have to worship that God. And you can't worship that God the way you think you should worship them. You have to worship him the way that we, the daughters of Zion, Judah, Israel, say that you have to do it. And it's not because me personally, I don't want to be involved in this. Personally don't want to be involved in this. However, I don't see a choice. So I'm not gonna rant anymore about this. I'm gonna leave this as a whole whatever drop. And we'll have to reconvene at a later date and time. So shalom, peace and blessings, and we'll see you in the next video.